Okay, this might get me enraged. This might get me enraged, but it's just been added to my React folder. This is Friendly Jordies. Never heard of this guy before. Never heard of this guy before. But why India will never be a superpower. And this is something I adamantly disagree with, because I personally see India as already a superpower. It just hasn't let the world completely know it yet. Give it another decade, maybe 5 to 10 years, it'll be dealing with its first world problems. Like I've said many times, India is fast forwarding its first world problems. So yeah, I don't know what this is, but yeah.
To all the angry Indians who just clicked on this video to drop a hate comment, fuck you Pakistani lover, friendly Jodish, Bharat is #1. You're proving the point raised at the title of this video, so you didn't destroy me, I destroyed myself. Look, I respect India as an ancient civilization. I just respect Pakistan more. Keep it!
It's like, what? I don't get what this is. I don't get what this is.
Come and more down those money lovers! Look at Pakistan! New man! No, but seriously, India has a lot of things going for it. Several thousand years of history, a large expanse of territory that is close to ours in size. We still have more land, and look at how arable it is. Fuck yes. There's a lot I respect about India. Butter chicken, that's definitely Indian. The fact that you let monkeys govern most of your rural towns. I tell you, for a society governed by a caste system, you are very inclusive, aren't you? All right, I'll stop patting you out. Should I just go high GDP?
Okay, so it sounds like he's doing more of a joke. It's rage bait click. Like I said, I would probably, how many views does he got on this? I need to see. He's got 100, it was posted 1 day ago, 177K views. And it seems like more of a positive video. It's just rage bait. He's getting people to click on his video. I really need to upload my wedding video, like me and my wife doing a ceremony in India, and just say, this is why I hate India. That's what I need to do. That's what I need to do. And I'll get all the clicks. I'll get all the clicks.
Yeah, that's right. You're getting another history lesson. India is the world's most populous country and just pips out the Vatican City for the title of world's largest democracy. It's home for many ethnic, religious and linguistic groups that, when compared to other parts of the world, live quite harmoniously. India's economic growth is solid, its middle class is booming, and the Taj Mahal is nice. No Sphinx Hotel in Geelong, but both are wonders of the world, aren't they? Yet, you really don't have to look around to see a lot of familiar symptoms of developing world malaise, like massive wealth disparity, substandard infrastructure, Lily Singh being from there. Many economists have tried to explain why India's economy hasn't taken off in the same way other previously impoverished Asian economies like South Korea and China's have. But I swear it has something to do with fucking Lily Singh. Russell Peters tried to help bolster your profile, but one Indian man doing impressions of a Chinese man can only do so much to unfurl the damage of that one YouTube rewind video. Of course, a big chunk of the reason that it hasn't taken off is different geographies creating different cultures, but that's sort of the reason for everything. It's a bit like a teacher asking, why is the world a sphere? Atoms? I guess, in a roundabout way. Can anyone tell me why the Declaration of Independence was signed? Atoms? Damn it, he's right again! For most of India's history, it was ruled by a hodgepodge of different, mostly fragmented empires. The Mughal Empire, which was the last major empire to hold the vast majority of the Indian subcontinent, reached its apex in the early 1700s. Succession wars and the growing ambitions of its vassal states to rule independently led to the empire's slow demise. And how opportune for the British. It was at this exact...
Who the heck is Lily Singh? You know, I was thinking the exact same thing. But I think I've heard Singh, but I think I've heard Lily Singh. If my memory serves, you know, I don't want to do a shot in the dark. I don't want to do a shot in the dark. But I thought I'm not going to do a shot in the dark. But I thought she was a YouTuber who got like a Netflix series, and then it was just outright terrible and it got canceled. I'm thinking I could be absolutely wrong.
At that time, the British East India Company began to make Indo.
I need to look it up. I'm freaking annoyed here. Just like who. All right, I need a keyboard right for this section, because I need to know who Lily Singh is. Okay, who is Lily Singh? There it is. Lily Singh is a Canadian comedian, actress, author, and producer who rose to fame as a mega influencer on YouTube under the pseudonym Superwoman. Okay. Over the years, she has expanded her career into the mainstream media, late night talk show host. Yes, that's her. That got canceled almost immediately. It got canceled. It only lasted one season. See, late night TV host. In 2019, she made history as the first person of Indian descent to be first openly queer woman. She came out as bisexual in 2019 to host the American major network late night show, Late with Lily Singh. Yeah, and then I think it got canceled after that. But she was like primarily did like YouTube videos. Oh my gosh, I'm deep in the weeds. I'm deep in the weeds. that was a long time ago. A long time ago. I think she's just gone now.
Into the subcontinent. If it was the Dutch instead, Britain today would be like Croatia. Well, it is pretty posh these days. It basically is where it cosmically was supposed to wind up. But as the Mughal Empire crumbled, the East India Company was basically the only major political and economic force left in the subcontinent, and so it basically became like the Tyrell Corporation in Blade Runner, but it was in the time of town crier bells instead of robots. It was a corporation governing huge swaths of the country. They started collecting tax. They taxed Indians heavily to extract as much wealth from its Indian territories, even during times of famine, which I do have sympathy for. National flagship transportation company as your government, kind of like if Qantas was the government. Can you imagine how much that would suck? And they make the Minister for Asian Economic Cooperation Jetstar. And again, that'd mean the Minister for Agriculture, Rex! Yay! India came under full control from the British Crown when soldiers working for the British East India Company, yes, a private company, had an army that was at points larger than Britain's actual army. Indian soldiers in that army ended up launching a subcontinent-wide rebellion that was clamped down on by the British. Shortly after, the remaining powers that the British East India Company held in India were transferred to the Crown, beginning the period known as the British Raj. Peak era of that hat that the hunter in the Jumanji cartoon wore. Literally heady days. It seemed that the primary vision Britain had for India was to discourage Indian manufacturing so that they would be more reliant on importing British goods. More or less the same play of every empire. Get the provinces to sell off raw, low-value goods, and then get them to import the peak of technology at the time, which was this vacuum cleaner that had to be dragged around by a horse. Fuck. There is yet another reason to be grateful to be alive in the age of Dysons. This is a self-defeating machine. Oh, the horse did a plonk. Oh, bollocks, the bag's full. Imported goods from Britain quickly displaced locally made products, which left India with a massive trade deficit and little in the way of an industrial base. It is estimated that in the span of 250 years in which the British were present in India, are you ready for this? Approximately 45 trillion US dollars was siphoned from the Indian economy into Britain. And my question is, where the fuck did that go? India was granted independence in 1947. It became a...
I mean, yeah, it's all gone. It's all absolutely gone. But it's not only that. I mean, it's like almost a couple trillion deaths during that span of time. Isn't it like a trillion deaths? I know it was an incredibly high number, and a trillion is a lot. A trillion is a lot, but it probably wasn't a trillion. It was probably like a couple hundred million, something like that.
Self-governing crown dominion in the same way Australia, Canada and New Zealand are today, before opting to transition to a presidential republic in 1950, and yet still gets to participate in the Commonwealth Games. Fuck off. That really is the Eurovision of the Olympic world, isn't it? I mean, anyone can compete. It's a complete joke. Post-independence India tried to uphold the principles of Swadeshi, or national self-sufficiency, same basic deal espoused and promised by all independence leaders, and yet never delivered on by any of them except Juche bitches. That's right. You know why you failed, India? Because you don't have the willpower of North Korea, do you? Do you? You're thinking of watching the comedy stylings of Andaz Apna right now, aren't you? I don't know what that is. India's post-independence economic policy sought to have a strong public and private sector work in tandem to build robust national industries. They really were trying to give local industries a go by keeping out foreign competition and trying to rely on the fact that they had hundreds of millions of customers. But as every country on earth learns,
and millions killed in famines, manufactured ones. Well, I mean, if they're sending all resources, like every resource, textiles, food, everything out of the nation, and then they have to pay top dollar when it's shipped back to them, then of course it's going to be, a lot of people aren't going to be able to afford it.
The hard way. Shutting yourself off doesn't work. Except in North Korea. It really is the superior Korea, isn't it? How good is this video pissing off two populous countries as much as possible to big ups one that doesn't have access to the internet? I tell you, whatever your criticisms of me are, you can't accuse me of pandering to an audience. There was another huge drawback. India's infamous shit-ass bureaucracy. Getting even a landline phone connected was a pain back in the day. So imagine trying to import items when secession had one clear message into the public service labyrinth. No. Gandhi has spoken. The first thing they should have done to cut back on the government spending was fire every...
Yes, that's true. That's true. But bureaucracy is like, there's too much red tape. There's too much red tape in a lot of governments. Absolutely. Like, some things make sense, but eventually you realize that most of the red tape that's put in the way is just to give someone's kid a job. Just to give someone in power their kid a job. Oh, your child, he doesn't have an education. He doesn't have a future. Oh, he's never done anything with his life. You know what? You know how there's this piece of red tape that you have to get past in order to get to the actual thing they need? Well, you know what? Let's open up a position right in between them so he can have this piece of red tape right here. So he'll get an email that all he has to do is hit forward on. So that way it can go up the ladder. And if he misses the email, then guess what? That person's just not getting his thing solved that time. They'll have to file again. There's so much red tape that it's ridiculous. And a lot of it is, of course, nepotism.
Rewriting customs, because that jungle of red tape was customs enough. There's no way that you're cutting through all of that without a Jumanji hat, but those were out of fashion and importing them was impossible because of the fucking bureaucracy. The Indian rupee wasn't freely convertible either. So, even if you wanted to do business, money there was unnecessarily expensive, which made Indian exports even less desirable. It wasn't until the 1990s that India abandoned these policies, and it wasn't by choice. It was because of a balance of payments crisis that threatened to upend the entire Indian economy. This was the period through where India moved from its Trump phase to shut the world out to its Russell Peters phrase,
take it and go. Take it and go.
I told you he did a lot for India's economy. Throughout this video, I will be doing a fair bit of comparison with China, but not to illustrate that dumbass point that I hate of, this country can be like this country. I'm all about the opposite point, which is this country cannot be like this country. India cannot replicate China.
No, just be its own thing. Just be its own thing. Yeah, the comparisons are like, you can do comparisons to show that, you know what? There are problems everywhere. Like, that's something I'm okay with. It's okay with to show comparisons to show like, oh, you know what? These comparisons to begin with are retarded. These comparisons to begin with are retarded. But when it's just like, you know what? We need, like, there are a bunch of YouTubers in the United States who are like, we should be more like China. We should be more like Venezuela. We should be more like Iran. It's like, what? It's like, have you guys ever traveled there? Do you know anything about those locations? Like, come on. But yeah, it's like, why? Why do you want to be like somebody else? If you want to be like somebody else, travel there, live there. Don't bother the people who want to live in the nation that they choose to live in. If you don't like the nation you're in and you think another nation is doing it better, travel there. I hate those people who are like, oh, this nation should be more like this nation. Go there.
Because it's India. It's worth stressing that China, similarly fucked from years of exploitation from foreign states, started with a roided up version of India's protectionist economy. Everything was run by the state, and they didn't have any foreign investment or participation in their economy under Mao. And so, the Chinese abandoned the Maoist model in 1979 with Deng Xiaoping and looked at the starving masses of the Chinese peasantry and realized, don't know if these guys can make high-quality electric cars. Deng acknowledged that China needed Western capital and know-how to build competitive industries, and honestly, this is why the 80s gets such an undeserved bad rap. Everything was great about that decade, from economics to Gar Kahani. Yeah, I definitely know what that one is. I love the part that is most memorable in that particular film. But it's what we learned here too. If you fence off your country, you start making substandard shit that people in your own country only buy because they are forced to buy it. Their plan was to use its labor force to become a useful node in the world economy, and Christ, did they ever achieve.
You won't believe many Indians refuse 30 through 40 IPA, the drink? The alcohol beverage, jobs just to secure a government job, which doesn't even pay half the amount. Yeah, I'm surprised how many people want to go into the government sector. I'm really surprised. Like, in the U.S., I mean, the thrill in the United States is your charities make you millionaires. It's hard to look at the politicians in the United States of America and find a politician that didn't become a multimillionaire or has received multi-millions of dollars while being a politician, when they're literally having their life subsidized by my paycheck, because they don't get a paycheck. They don't get money, except maybe a small spending allowance for going on a date with their family. But yeah, a lot of red tape, and a lot of corruption.
That. They started off building ports, roads, highways, and infrastructure to support efficient manufacturing operations and supply chains. They would use that money to educate their population, make its manufacturing base even more efficient. They would then invest in industries like renewable energy infrastructure and EVs that were pie in the sky business opportunities 20 years ago. I don't know why people find government jobs so. I guess it's because it's reliable. It's reliable. but now are disruptive high-growth industries that are shaking the foundations of Western economic dominance. Compare that to the case of India. After liberalizing, over a decade later, they pivoted towards... I'm sorry, it's just such a stereotype. IT services. I mean, did I even have to tell you that? You could have guessed, right? They did this because a lot of Indians knew how to speak English. How handy is that? Because China didn't, they had to invest in roads, highways, ports, and make heaps and heaps of Macca's toys. India just had to set up phone lines. Howdy, partner. My name is Mike Tyson. Yes, the world champion boxer. That's correct. No, I don't want to talk about my hip.
Like the sad thing is, like every time. So during the winter, I got in an accident. I slid on black ice and I slid off the road, and I had to call my insurance company in order to get a tow truck. I called the insurance company and I got India, and he was called Steve. I think he called himself Steve, and he's like, oh, how can I help you today? He was Indian. It's like, I was just like hearing him, like, oh my gosh, of course. Of course. Thank you for the help. But of course, the jokes write themselves. Stereotypes are there for a reason. But the thing is, it was an open market. You take advantage of open markets. You can't be upset that India took that opportunity. Why? It was a market that everyone needed. Everyone needed a call service. Everyone needed someone to answer the phones. India offered its services for that. I mean, they filled a void. They absolutely filled a void.
Heavyweight championships. I would like to help you with your modem problem, sir. There's obviously many issues with this. The first one is...
Yeah, he was not Steve.
No more lies. I know your name is Sanjut, not Mike. But another is that AI is going to make a lot of low-end customer support and IT roles redundant. And the other one is that if you don't build out the rest of your country like China did, you know what happens? Your economy basically becomes this strange mix of call centers and farms, as opposed to Australia's much more diverse economy of red roosters and shitting on Abby Chatfield. Fan of both services, mind you. But there's much worse problems for India. That's just the beginning. Agriculture contributes to about 20% of the economy, but it employs nearly 50% of the workforce. Fuck me. Agriculture really is their shitting on Abby Chatfield, isn't it? That speaks volumes as to how poorly utilised the Indian labour market is, especially when you consider that employment in India really isn't how we understand employment. It's closer to how Victorian Dickens villains understood employment. I'll give you a penny if you do a little dance to distract that law while I pick his pocket. India, 2026. You didn't go as hard there. The vast majority of the Indian workforce is employed under informal agreements without contracts or benefits, and yet they have this weird employment protection system that seems to be based, I think, mostly off of superstition. For example, Indian companies cannot hire or fire workers if they already have over 300 workers. What that means is on one end of the spectrum, you have massive mega corporations like Tata and Reliance employing thousands of people in workshops, and small businesses on the other hand. If you're a medium-sized business looking to expand, which really is what you should be fostering as a government, you're fucked. You run into that massive, world-famous wall of Indian red tape that does not allow you to scale up your workforce. Of course, there's a lot to say about labour abuses, poor working conditions, shit real wage growth. We all know this, but my bigger overarching point is India's economic policy is so fucked that it simultaneously fucks over workers and employers. That's an impressive feat. With companies looking to rely less on China as their sole manufacturer.
I can't say I know much about it. Because if that's the case, where if you get past a certain size, you can no longer terminate employees, that's going to prevent companies from growing to excess. And it also is going to make it difficult for little companies. Well, that's what he was hinting at. But that's the thing. It's just like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. It's ridiculous.
Manufacturing hub, India has rightfully identified, maybe we can set up some industrial hubs, but companies are having issues setting up in India because the industrial base and know-how just isn't there because of their IT strategy in the 90s. There's a lot of engineers in India, software engineers, not many of the engineers that can build highways. They can put up the ad on Seek.com to search for that engineer.
So I think they need to start importing. So what the U.S. does, they import all their computer engineers, primarily from India. Let's be honest. The U.S. Imports most of their computer engineers from India. I think what India needs to start doing is importing most of its engineers from outside. Those people who get architectural, like an architectural engineer, like they're a dime a dozen. There are a lot of them out there. Sure, it is still a tough degree, but at the same time, there are a lot of them out there that you just have to, well, make it incentive for people from other nations to travel to India and, yeah, take the job.
But we also have to address the other massive elephant in the room. Ooh, risque play on words. Culture. One reason why India could never become like China, as I hinted to previously, is that India remains a patchwork of hundreds of religious, ethnic, and linguistic groups. Placating all these groups still is a massive issue even to this day, with flare-ups of separatist movement activity and sectarian violence still.
Well, that's primarily utilized by if the politicians didn't play on the hate or rise up the people to be aggravated, then guess what? It probably wouldn't happen as often. You would still have people that see themselves as superior to someone else, but it's the fact that it gets played on, especially during a political run.
Plaguing India, especially as the Hindu nationalist government of Narendra Modi fans the flames for religious fervor. Economically speaking, that presents in itself massive challenges. In China, for instance, you can force Mandarin Chinese on over 1 billion people. You can't do the same thing in India. India's official languages are English and Hindi, the latter being a northern Indian language that holds the distinction of not being spoken exclusively by one single ethnic group. For context, about 40% of India speaks Hindi and its subdialects, and the remainder speak a diverse range of other languages like Punjabi, Tamil, and Bengali. What this means is that people in India who do not speak Hindi as their mother tongue and weren't taught English or Hindi as a second or third language cannot trade or do business with someone from another part of India. There's literally a language barrier on their economy, a Tamil tariff, if you will. Also, Indians, let me know in the comments. Is there any crossover? Is it kind of like when I hear German and I think, nah, this is just English. You just put Husenfumpfen at the end of every noun. Then there's the caste system. An estimated 15 to 20% of India's population belong to the lowest caste, who are called the Dalits or untouchables. Imagine being called untouchable, and if they are untouchable, how the fuck is there 100 million of them? That's a lot of touching. Despite the caste system being legally abolished in India, culture caste discrimination obviously remains widespread. Most Indian Supreme Court judges from India's highest caste, for instance, the vast majority of India's billionaires who hold 70 to 80% of the country's wealth come from higher castes. It's a problem because when you don't have class mobility, there's a lot of potential Einsteins making a monkey do tricks on the side of the road for coins. I honestly think this is the biggest contribution unions have made to Western society. They made more pathways where you can start from the bottom. And you know I'm not saying this in the annoying, everyone has the right to dignity way. Take your dignity and monetize it on OnlyFans. I'm talking raw Chad economics, empathy cucks. It's very good for the economy that someone can start out as a pov and end up as a rich. Making that near impossible is really bad for the economy. Having said all that, at the moment, it's got pretty decent economic growth. Will that continue for a long period of time? Probably not. The biggest draw card China has over a country like India is that it can chart a direction, and even if it's unpopular, they can stick to that direction for decades before it starts bearing fruit. As we all know all too well, very fucking difficult to do that in a democracy, even one as small as Geelong Local Council, let alone 1 billion people speaking 1 billion different languages. And you might be wondering, why am I saying all this?
Well, the thing is, like, when it comes to the language, I can understand how that's a massive hurdle to cross. But at the same time, you have to think about it as a culture basically degrading itself, especially now that the world is a very small place. The world used to be a large place that it would take weeks to get somewhere, even within your own nation. It would take weeks to months. Like the Trail of Tears in the United States of America took them months to traverse. Some families even longer to get across from the East Coast to the West Coast. It's the thing is, now that the world is so small, you're gonna, and I use this argument all the time, that the language is gonna disappear. Languages, like how many people have the original Hindi tongue? How many? Or how many actually have more of a Hinglish? A Hinglish? A Hindlish? How would you say Hindi English? It's basically a Hindi English mix. because sometimes it's easier to say an English word than to say a Hindi word. Sometimes, and it ends up eroding away the language. And the problem is, as soon as a national language is established, all the languages will end up being locked down in their state and be protected. Where it's like, you know what, this word means this, we have to stick with that. The second that happens, the languages will be protected. You give it another century, another 2 century. Honestly, it could be just a few decades before the languages just start to erode, and then everyone will be speaking like a few languages with English as a main dialogue, or you'll end up with like just a hodgepodge of all the languages, which, who knows, might be a good thing. A mixture of all the languages. It finally become one nation under a strange dialect that nobody right now can speak, but maybe give it a few decades and everyone will speak it, because languages do erode. They do erode. No one right now is speaking the same English that they spoke, well, back in the day. And the good old King James Bible, or the good old 1800s. No, language evolves. And the thing is, you lose a bit of what that language was through the times and everything, because everything always has a new meaning. There's always something that comes up, or they adopt another phrase from another language. Like the English language has so many phrases from other languages, and people just know what that phrase is. Like, how many movies, how many things where you hear in like American films, things like that, where they use the word karma. That's not an American word. That's not an English word, but it's utilized in English as if it's an English word, because everyone knows the meaning behind karma. That's the thing. It's just like eventually the language barrier will erode away, and you'll end up with either Hindi or English or whatever as your language, or a mix between them. Because you will lose what made the language special, because everyone's on this watching different languages all the time. All the time. And it just becomes easier for them to integrate some different languages into their speech patterns. Caste system is prevalent in India, but in reverse. If you came across erstwhile lower castes, you now get job reservation. Yeah, which I'm against. I hate that reservation class thing. It just pisses me off. You, in fact, don't even have to pay any fees to give their exams. Yeah. That kind of thing pisses me off. It's a reverse situation that just makes people more enraged. Nobody should be given a helping hand. Everyone should be treated equally. Plain and simple. The only people who should be special are kids. Kids should always be given the ultimate amount of support. Other than that, everyone has to fend for themselves.
Yes, mostly to monetize clicks from Indian nationalist trolls, frankly, but also because it really is one of those sleeping giant countries. I think we're all rooting for India, except in the cricket. Because can you imagine what a prosperous world it would be with 2 Chinas? How great would that be to have a giant neighbor with a similar political system and large consumer market base that we can conduct business with in an ocean that isn't going to be a flashpoint for another world war? Obviously, the reasons outlined are just some of the huge major challenges that make me think, Christ, I do not envy anyone who has the task of attempting to govern India. But I reckon there's one obvious starting point, which is, guys, you've got to go renewable. It's good to see that they have recently started to take that seriously, better late than never. But one of the unexpected twists of history is Trump might actually go down in history as everything Al Gore wanted to be going down in history as. He could be the green president that saves the world. Him fucking with energy exports through the Straits of Hormuz, that really caught India with its pants down. I mean, you thought that was bad for us. Factories and businesses are being forced to shut down in India because they are painfully reliant on Qatari gas. Meanwhile, Pakistan, whose energy grid all but collapsed, is buying up cheap Chinese solar panels to address their energy needs, becoming an unlikely center of renewable development in Asia. So, if for no other reason, India, you're going to let Pakistan run rings around you? You don't even let them do that when they're putting up their flag on the border. Green energy for India is such a no-brainer. They could pull an easy dub here where China had to pull a very hard dub. China had to set up a bunch of manufacturing industries to develop all the Asian economic wonders, much like Japan and South Korea had to as well. But that in turn has made it really hard for them to decarbonize their economies, while India, That's one problem you don't have. As every builder knows, it is way easier to build a building from scratch than to renovate one. That's the obvious starting point. You can start with a low carbon energy grid, and energy is the starting point of any economic advancement. Anyway, that's what I reckon you should do. What do you reckon you should do, Indian nationals?
Well,
Watch more debates
farm.
hosted by Arnab Goswami? Oh yes, I actually do know about Arnab, and that is my style of comedy.
I don't agree with everything, but it was interesting getting a different perspective. It was interesting getting a different perspective because, again, I don't know everything. But yeah, a lot of it was primarily rage bait, and I just think he was enjoying it. I think he was enjoying it because he knows how the hate bandwagon is. So he's all, you know what? I'm gonna lean into it. I'm gonna lean into it primarily. But yeah, it is kind of energy is very important, absolutely very important, and the fact that they are working on their solar farm. Like I was watching that video the other day about their solar farm and the plans on the future of it, because everywhere's tried to do a solar farm and it's always failed. India can never be China. Both have different goals. China wants to rule the world. India wants to grow with prosperity. Well, that in the completely different structure, because if you look at China, it's gonna offend, but it's an outright dictatorship. It's an outright dictatorship. The government says what it's going to do, and they do it. That's just it. They shoot for the moon. They do it. They just go for it, and no one can get in their way because they have full control. Unlike you look at India, there are so many people in the way that despise their own nation. There are the issues like that. There are the politicians who hate the fact that they're not the ones getting the praise of doing what's getting the praise of what's going on in India, or because India is becoming more successful, their backroom deals with other foreign nations are falling apart. Because they used to sell the idea, allegedly, but this happened in the United States of America too. They used to sell the idea of India being poor as like, oh, we won't do anything because we'll have your back. We'll support you in your hate towards us. Just kind of like what I'm not gonna name it, but it happened. It happened. Yeah. Where it's like a quid pro quo type of scenario. You do this and I'll make sure this happens, or I'll make sure this won't happen. I get it that they wanted to get lower caste communities mainstream and what their people to have some money to put to promote their uplifted, but I think 20 years were enough of it. Not entirely. I just think it's wrong to try to specialize one group of people above another. The nation should be treated as a whole. Everyone in the nation should be given equal treatment. It shouldn't be like, oh, you know what? Because for a few, like 2 centuries, you were seen as less than. Because of what happened centuries ago, we're going to treat you special right now. Which literally means you're still treating them different. You still see them as different than you, which I think is a huge problem. Because you're seeing them, because you're like, oh, because you're different than me, I'm going to give you more. Which is racist in and of itself. How many people are like that? Too many.
You guys got a video? What's so bad?
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait on that.